Anyway, we're gonna get going. We got to get out of here by 10 at the latest. I forgot my little clicker, so I'm gonna have to manually go over here. We do have a couple of new agents. Thank God none of them are here this morning, so I don't have to embarrass myself. We'll introduce them. We'll introduce them at next month's meeting or maybe before. Thank you, sir. I'll take those. Brad is still with us. Brad is with Coldwell Banker Mortgage. Brad has been here now for almost 7, 8, 9 weeks. It's a miracle. We've got a lender that sat in the office, and Owen is getting a round of applause from somebody. We're going to give Brad a few minutes at the end of the meeting. He can kind of tell us what's going on mortgage-wise and such, but I just wanted to give him a little shout-out. If you're not looking at the website portals, please do so. Our calendar is being updated as we speak. I know there's been a couple of requests. I've seen some emails from Robert and from Michael going back and forth with Norm. Norm has not been doing his training in the Moreno Valley office for a little while, and I was doing my training, and then we kind of fell off right around Thanksgiving or Christmas. Norm does some really good training classes. The reason he hasn't been doing them here in Moreno Valley is because he's actually been doing them for the Citrus Valley Association on a cycle out there, which unfortunately is a pretty tough drive for us. And that's a good hour plus drive depending upon traffic. So I'm actually trying to see if we can't get him to do those classes at Ivar and make it a little bit more economically feasible for everybody. Having said that, for those of you that can stomach it, we're going to go through, and I never finished. We did our, matter of fact, I was talking to Anna yesterday about Robert. How many years ago, Robert, were you sitting in our classes?
Almost 6.
6, 7 years ago? 6 years ago? At any rate, we're going to restart what we started back in, I think, October, which is our Thursday training classes starting tomorrow. I know that's pretty short notice, but starting tomorrow, we'll start our training classes, and we've got a series of a whole bunch of, and go grab that book that I gave you that got all those little tabs on it. It's about 17 different courses, ranging from, Anna's going to get me the book, and we'll go through each and every one of them exactly what they are. Ranging from contracts and disclosures to so on and so forth and all the rest of this. And we're going to get the calendar updated on the website hopefully today. Anna tried to do it yesterday, and I guess it wasn't sticking. Is anybody even looking at that training calendar? We're certainly not looking at the calendar when our sales meetings are. Keep in mind, our sales meetings are the second Wednesday of every month. Do you get that? Second Wednesday. They've been the second Wednesday of every month forever. So our agenda will be the following. We're doing the purchase agreement. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to do these marathon classes. I think that's become a little bit of a problem. You know, sitting on a Thursday afternoon for 4 hours doing a contract is probably not the best, most effective way to do it. So we're going to basically do 2-hour blocks every Thursday from 1 to 3. Most all of the classes will run for 2-hour blocks. There might be 1 or 2 of them that are a little bit shorter just because their content doesn't require 2 hours. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to do purchase contract, listing agreement, disclosures, net sheets, MLS, which frankly I'm probably going to need a little bit of training on MLS. I used to do the MLS training in the office back in the day when I was pretty good at doing the MLS training. So we'll probably bring somebody in from the MLS to do the MLS training. We're going to do listing presentations, offer negotiations, and presentation of offers. We're going to go through escrow instructions, which for obvious reasons we'll probably have Summer help us with that. We're going to go through prelims. Maybe we'll have a title officer or somebody help us with understanding preliminary title reports. We're going to do reports from NHD to termite to home inspections. Of course, my favorite, we're going to do prospecting and property management, contact management, and there's a couple more. Some of those courses are not just one Thursday from, for example, I can't do a contracts class in 2 hours. Contracts class is probably 3 different classes. So I keep misplacing my soda. So at any rate, that will be on the schedule hopefully today. You can go through and take a peek at what you're interested in not. If anybody's got, we haven't really set the schedule. We thought we'd start with contracts again. I'm kind of hesitating whether that's a good idea because I'm assuming everybody in this room has gone through a contracts class 17 times. Maybe with the exception of Robert or even I think Michael, you probably sat there at least 2 or 3 that I'm aware of. But if you have a request on what you want to see, let us know. So if we get a bunch of people that says, hey, I'd really like to go over how to work a net sheet for a seller, you know, heck, we can do that. We don't have to wait for 2 months to do a net sheet for a seller. We'll do that next week. We'll do it tomorrow. So, what's that? We're going to do every Thursday from 1 to 3 o'clock. So, and again, we're going to do every Thursday, come heck or high water. For the most part, I'm going to probably fill in. We'll do some. I kind of skipped over Brad because I don't even have a thing in here on mortgage and stuff. Brad has put out a request, which I don't think anybody replied to, which basically said, is there anything mortgage related that you guys would like, you know, FHA, appraisal requirements, conventional, Dodd-Frank, whatever. So we'll get Brad sprinkled into the program as well, and frankly, kind of get back on track. You know, we were doing these pretty consistently. You know, for a while there, we were doing, you know, 2 classes a week. So anyway, starting tomorrow, I actually was thinking about maybe switching up the lineup a little bit. Instead of doing contracts tomorrow, maybe doing net sheets tomorrow. And the only reason I was thinking net sheets is I'm amazed how many of you don't know how to fill out a net sheet for a seller's net sheet on a listing agreement. Oops, is that me? Does anybody have any trouble with that?
We have a great as well, so yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, that works. Hey, Drew. Drew, are you in the building?
He's here.
Did he leave?
He's here.
Tell Drew to call his brother, please. Drake's at the river in my boat right now. And it's way too early in the morning for him to be calling me, which means there's probably not trouble. If you call me later in the day, I thought, oh, geez, that could be trouble. So, huh? Anyhow. All right, a little distraction. So at any rate, but that's a good, whoever said, hey, we have summer here, that's great, we don't need to do a seller's net sheet, we can just roll on into summer. Unless you're dragging summer out to your listing presentations, I would suggest summer is a good resource when you open escrow and you sit down and you have done your seller's net sheet and you present it and the seller says, well, is this exactly what the charges are going to be? And your answer, my answer has always been, well, no, I've got commissions will be exact, and this is going to be exact, and that'll be transfer fee will be exact, and the home warranty that we said we're going to pay up to $350 will be exact. You know, but I've got my rate sheet from title. I think that should be pretty darn close. You know, we've got summer's calculations, but in reality, maybe we don't exactly know what the taxes are going to be. We don't know what the prorations are going to be. So, well, you may or may not know what the term. Can summer tell you what the termite's going to be? No, so you don't know what the termite's going to be. So it's always nice to sit back and say, I'll tell you what, we'll get you an estimated seller proceeds from escrow here within the next 24 hours, but here you go, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. And by the way, it just says you're going to get, you know, $13,752 based upon my net. I can assure you it won't be any less than that. Unless, of course, you've given me bad information. You've given me a bad payoff on a loan. You've told me you've paid your property taxes and you haven't. You know, we assume that we're not going to have a termite issue, but we do. So, but you guys need to fill that out. Did you get my message?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
You're alive? Good. All right. I can concentrate. So, I was worried about my boat, not so much. Anyway, but you should know how to fill out that sheet. So, I don't know, maybe we'll flip that up a little bit tomorrow. Anybody would rather see net sheet class tomorrow as opposed to a contract class? You don't care one way or the other.
Net sheet?
Net sheet?
Yeah.
Someone say no?
I can't make it tomorrow, so no.
Well, keep in mind, and you know, whenever we have poor attendance in these meetings, my backup is always, oh, that's okay, because everybody's going to say they can watch them on the video, which has always been one of the reasons we talked originally. I can remember having this conversation with Shelley when we started videoing these. She says, don't video the meetings, because number one, people don't like to talk on video. They don't want to ask a question that they might think on video. And then if we just tell them, hey, you can watch the sales meeting on video. Like for example, I know of at least a half a dozen of our agents, which makes sense. You know, Don Miller lives out in Hemet. He never comes into the office. He works out of Hemet. It's difficult for him to get here. He watches the meetings on video. He'll never come to a sales meeting unless he just happens to be in town. But at any rate, we're videoing all of our training. So has anybody saw that? Anybody gone on our YouTube and watched the videos? Okay, well, we're going to video all of them. I think you lose a little bit on the video. They're difficult to see. They're kind of grainy the way we do them. You know, we've got the screen up. It's a little challenging. But at any rate, we're starting our training tomorrow. So it sounds like we're going to do net sheets. Then probably we'll follow up with contracts after that. Any questions on that? Yes?
Yes, I have this flag for HUD training in Covina.
Yes.
Will we do anything like this?
We can. What this is what Robert's referring to is, and I'm assuming probably most of you guys have probably already gone to something like this previously. The HUD brokers that have the HUD accounts are basically required to do training. So I've got to assume, with maybe the exception of Robert and one or two of you, has there anybody in this room not been to a HUD training class in the last year or two? A couple, three of you? Okay. They hold them at the board. Gosh, it seems like every other month somebody at the board is doing them. And again, basically what you're, you know, you'll have one of the HUD brokers, kind of like me with the Fannie Mae broker, you'll have one of the HUD brokers that'll sit down, go through a half hour of, hey, this is how the program works, this is what you can do. For example, you may not know, did you guys know you could advertise HUD homes?
Yes.
Okay, well, a couple of you are nodding up and down. Seleni's got a little first-hand experience with this recently. You know, you can advertise a HUD home, you don't even have to ask. You just add, you know, technically if you want to advertise, if I want to advertise Steve's listing, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, traditional listing. If I think, oh, that's a great listing, I'd like to advertise that listing. Can I advertise his listing? Not without his permission. I have to call Steve and say, hey buddy, would it be okay if I advertise your listing? And if he says yes, then I get to do it. If he says no, I can't. Okay, well, that doesn't apply to that. I could run as many ads as I want. You know, it's not my listing, it's listed with the ABC company. So they talk about stuff like that. They talk about kind of best practices on how to submit an offer. Anybody recently submitted an online HUD offer? Okay, a couple, three of you. Anybody have one accepted recently? Not in this room. I know Bruce Sally did. Bruce Sally submitted one within the last week, got it accepted. She must be doing something special, by the way, and they'll probably talk about this in the class, which, by the way, you guys are certainly welcome to go to this. If it's, again, it's not as convenient to, this is a Claremont or Covina?
Covina.
Covina. May not be as convenient for you to get out to Covina to see this class, but you're certainly welcome to do it. We can do one here. To be honest with you, I've been reluctant to have them here, because most of these agents or these brokers that are doing these, they're doing this as a recruiting opportunity. They're not really doing it to come and tell you guys how to teach HUDs. You know, and there's a couple of brokers locally that specifically do this, and I love them to death, and I consider them friends. But I don't want them in my office recruiting you guys. You guys are getting enough phone calls from other sources to get recruited from. So having them come into my office and do a class, I just kind of get a little funky about that. But this is open to you. Again, I think one of these classes was done at IVAR certainly this year.
Seems like they do almost every week.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And that may be a little bit of an overstatement. If you didn't hear Stephen, he says it seems like they do them almost every week. If they don't do at least one a month or one every 5 or 6 weeks, I'd be shocked. So if you don't want to drive to Covina, I'll have Anna take a look at when they're doing the next one at IVAR. We'll get it on our calendar and we can do it there. Okay, they're good. But I will tell you one thing that we need to get trained on. When I say we, I mean me. We've been talking for months about you guys, when you submit an offer on a HUD property, that you got to let us know, because you guys don't get notified when the offer is accepted. Well, they've either changed something, or, and again, Seleni's got some recent experience with this, because she was, you know, left us temporarily to go work with a HUD broker. But now is there a place that you can put your email in there to get notification?
Each agent, you're registered as a registered broker.
Yep.
And each agent should be registered as an agent on the HUD Home Store website.
Okay.
So each agent has to go in there, that way you can email directly
Aha.
that your offer has been accepted.
Okay.
You know what? Originally, Shelley was saying that we had to use her number, so only she was getting notified. The whole time, we're supposed to use our own stuff.
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah.
You could actually.
Okay, well, I would say okay, but I think that's probably partially true, but all the other offices, they never talked to Shelley before on how to do it, and they had the exact same problems. I mean, there was offers written in every other office, and like, what do we do, how do we do it? But if you register yourself under me, you now, because Ruth just did it. Ruthie just did it, and she got an email that said her offer was accepted. I got the same email. She was CC'd on it. It was beautiful. I'm like, wow, how cool is that? So, but at any rate, not a bad thing. You're welcome to do that, and we'll get some information on when the next one is. So, anything else on training? Nothing else? Okay. Our monthly sales awards, we skipped. Last time we've done monthly awards was for December. We skipped January because for some reason I was busy. We didn't do February because the February meeting immediately followed our big shindig down at March Air Force Base, and I just was awarded out. So we're doing January and February. So our January top selling agent, Debbie DeMars. Shocked. Is that a look of shock on your face? Debbie, get up here. What do I do with those things? Here we go. We ran out of our super nice official looking plaques, so we went to these little star deals. If you don't like that, we'll get it redone. So congratulations. Thank you. You're welcome. So, good job, Debbie. Give her another round of applause. And for February, we had a pretty steaming month with Stephen Wow. Get up here, Stephen. Stephen is also known as the middleman. We've given him a new nickname over the last couple of weeks because he's always in the middle of something. Congratulations. There you go. And if you don't like those stars, we'll fix that for you. We'll just throw another one on there. So congratulations to Debbie and Steve for January, February. I'm still holding out a listing agent. I just have real challenge passing out top listing agents when the volume is so small. We've got to have like at least a minimum standard before we start passing out listed agents. So Alfred A. Newman is still our top agent for January.
Alfred spelled February wrong.
The minimum standard, well, okay, who took more than 4 listings in January or February?
I think I did.
3?
1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4.
Okay. Who?
I
You
think
took
I
4?
think I took 2 or 3.
You don't count. You're special. You're in one of those funky transition
2 are land though.
things. You gotta make a decision. You don't qualify for anything yet. Yeah, you don't work. Not that you don't work, but you know what I mean. So, so you took 3 in February or January?
I think 3 in each.
That's actually saying something. Anybody run the inventory? I did. I just read, this is live. I don't know if I would, I might have been logged out. Let's see if this is still active. I probably timed out. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay. Can you see the number down here?
105?
Active listings, Moreno Valley, 105.
Wow, they're diminishing.
105. Crazy.
What, 80 of them are short sale?
Well, I mean, how many of these are sellable? Let's just quickly take
How
it.
many are condos?
Let's just really take a look at that. It'd be kind of interesting real fast, hopefully.
None of them are sellable. Or the unsellable.
This is what we got. Let's separate, they're sorted by price. Okay, so we've got a bunch of garbage.
So, I mean, what's active? Morning.
Well, these should sell. I'm not sure why these haven't sold. Maybe there's a reason they haven't, but these condos will sell. These condos will sell, unless they're short sale and waiting on some nonsense. But you got to figure.
You gotta look at days on market.
What's that?
You look at the days on market on all of them, that'll kind of tell you. Anything that's on the market for more than 5 days is unsellable.
It's an issue, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got, and I don't want to go through all of these, but you just, I mean, Drew's right. I mean, you've got anything that's, you've got a couple brand new stuff that came in, 293 days, 144, 142. Something spunky. But 105? Ooh, that's something. If you go to our broker metrics reports for Moval, is this Moval? Hold on a second, I think this is actually Sierra MLS. This is all of the MLS values I think if you recall last month, I was a little surprised that the values kind of dipped a little bit. Median price dipped in January. It's basically back up in February, but that represents it's still a 21. Steve and I were just talking about this earlier. Does it say did you throw that in the trash? Does it say that NAR's number is 7%?
So,
Is anybody subscribed to the Press Enterprise still? Is it pretty much dead?
Mayor,
Um,
it's not.
Yeah, we're not supposed to, yeah, Mayor said don't.
This is yesterday's Press Enterprise business section. I subscribe. I will stack up 6 or 8 of these papers, leave them on the dining room table, and then wait for a Sunday afternoon when watching TV, and then just go through and just see what's going on. This was yesterday's paper, Sellers Market Forming. I think that's kind of funny. Are we in a seller's market? Yeah. Did it form, yesterday, in the last week? I mean, we've been in a seller's market for, when you have properties, going back to that chart, when you have properties that are selling, and Drew's comment is a good one, you have properties that are selling within days, average days on market. Oops, back over here.
Spell my name where you say it.
Drew did that. Can you sort by this? It looks like you can. We're back on Sierra MLS's site, looking at the 105 Moreno Valley properties. Okay, interesting. All right, so you've got, well, a pretty decent chunk. Let's just go down and say 50 days on market. Okay, you've got a pretty decent chunk of properties just based upon my scrolling that have been on the market less than 2 weeks.
No, standard sales.
Okay, yeah, and that's a whole nother thing, a whole nother conversation, which kind of gets to this. I mean, the whole gist of this article, which I haven't read, so maybe I should read it before I comment on it, but the gist is something we've known for a long time. Inventory is low, property values are going up, a seller's market is forming, a seller's market is formed. Our only challenge is you sit back and say, well, if we're in a seller's market, how come we don't have more sellers? Well, we don't have more sellers because we still have some equity play, or lack of equity play. A lot of people are just still kind of, property values have gone up, they still haven't necessarily gone up quite enough to make those numbers work. But when you look at this, when you look at, I guess it's 50, right? What happens if we go down to less than 30 days? Am I looking at 100 at a time? Is that what this is? Okay, I got 100 per page.
Where do these people go after you sell their house? They're not gonna buy anything.
Right. Well, frankly, that's a great question. What do you do with the seller?
We're moving out of state.
Sounds like we have an answer.
Well, actually, there's a reason why this is a problem, and PHH and Caldwell Banker did a survey on it. The last time we had the lot of volume, you had a lot of builders going on. So when they sold a home, they could go buy new, okay? They could move up. The baby boomers still aren't buying down. They still want to buy up. So there's no reason. You can see the standard sales in the last 90 days have overpassed short sales nationwide.
Yep.
My area, Rancho Cucamonga, all those 5 cities there, short sales dominate the listings. I realize there are not a lot of them, but it dominates them. The problem is if they sold it, even if they had equity, where are they going to go? Everybody's fighting for the same 105 houses here. They're not going to do that. So they said, you know what, I'll sit on my house, and it'd be worth more. And of course, it becomes that catch-22. Rates are going up, and this is happening. But it's very simply, there's no new homes. As the new home inventory increases, and I know the next big project I know of is Eastvale. By the end of 2014, has 10,000 units to open. That was released by the Building and Planning Commissioner of Ontario 3 weeks ago at a realtor meeting it was at. So they've got the land. They're already doing the build-outs. They had renegotiation. They had $100 million required improvements before they let them break land, curbs and streets, and they just reduced it to $50 million, and so it kicked it into going. So 10,000 units there. I mean, that's still a little ways away, but at least it's somewhere. But until you get people like Lewis, KB, KHOV, Lennar, all the major players back putting new houses in play that are step-ups, it can't be the little bitty houses.
There's one problem with that, though. If we certainly can't wait for that to happen, because that ain't going to happen in this town for a while. Okay? Matter of fact, there was another article in the Press Enterprise, well actually it wasn't in the Press Enterprise, I was down in Palm Springs yesterday, and whatever the local rag is, the Sun or whatever the heck it is, was specifically talking about builders coming back into the low desert, buying up previously established lots that were never developed on, and it pretty much goes to exactly what Brad is saying. New inventory coming in, new construction. The challenge is even for us, even though we've seen a 20+% increase in property, which by the way, I just redid this search, only standard sales. Of the 105, 71 of them are standard sales. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Now whether that's completely accurate, who knows? But we're not going to see a lot of builders in this city anytime soon, and to the degree that we are, it certainly won't be enough to solve our problem. But you look at these standard sales, look at the days on market, kind of on the right third of the page. Well, you've got a couple funky ones. Okay, let's just assume you've just got to figure of the 70 properties on the sheet, everything from here is one that's been 1,700 days. That's a great listing. That thing should just be destroyed. Well, let's just say anything from here down, which is, I don't know, 15, 20 properties, it's unsellable for whatever reason. It's either really not a standard sale, it's overpriced, it's a piece of crap, you can't finance it, it's got some sort of issue on it. But anyway, bottom line is, this talks about a seller's market forming, NAR, which I love, and again, this is national. NAR is talking about a, what is it, 7%, Steve?
Yeah.
7% increase in values. It talks about investors and a whole bunch of other stuff. At any rate, I'm sticking with my number. I think we're going to be at a 50% increase in property values from June to June. We're right now halfway there, probably a little more than halfway there. But when you look at these inventory numbers, and then to get back to Chris's question, and I think Brad's probably right, where are these sellers going to go? That may be a legitimate question for one of the answers as to why we're not seeing more inventory on the market.
I've had quite a few people that aren't listening. I mean, they want to, they have a little bit of equity, but they just have nowhere to go.
Right. Right. And if they were to, I'm sorry, I can't talk and chew gum at the same time. I'm going to show you guys this. The supply and demand. Again, we've been looking at supply and demand for a long time now, but let's assume that Chris's argument is correct, which I think it is. You've got people that are now sitting back and saying, I'm in somewhat of an equity position, but what's the point? You know, I'm not relocating, I'm not financially distressed, I'm not getting divorced. So, I mean, 'cause those are always the big ones, you know, job transfer, marital problems, financial problems, something like that would trigger it. And then, of course, you have that other segment, which was just kind of like, I want a nicer house, okay? So we're still really dependent upon job transfer, financial problem. I mean, we literally want to wish for divorces and transfers.
I've got a couple where it's like only a couple times in the state.
So, I mean, we really are what? Marital disharmony. So, because again, if you're just selling to go buy another move-up, I look at this stuff. I'd like to buy a move-up house. By the way, is the move-up market doing what the lower-end market's doing? Hell no, it's not. That's why we should be excited. We've gone through 6 or 7 years or 6 years of pain in the Inland Empire on the low-end values, and we've just got beaten to death, right? As this recovery is in play, and it is totally in play, I know the inventory is a problem, but the low-end entry-level market is really the only thing that's really moving substantially right now. Okay, it's nice to go out and say, well, geez, I'd like to sell a $500,000 or $600,000 property and move up location. Those properties are really, number one, the sellers aren't selling, because where are they going to go buy to? And that market is a little stale. And it really, really is a little stale. It's a low-end market that's still, frankly, a lot of it, of course, is driven by investors and driven by the fact that we've overcorrected and driven. And I still think if we saw interest rates go up, that actually would be a good thing. People have been basically ingrained that interest rates are low. And all they ought to do is turn on the TV and listen to Chairman Bernanke for 2 years now, and as recently as 2 months ago, pretty much came out, and the Fed chair said interest rates will remain low. 2 years ago, he said they're gonna remain low for about 2 years. About 3 months ago, he said they're gonna remain low, below sub 4%. And I believe he said through 2015. So if I'm a buyer slash borrower, I'm not worried about interest rates, am I? Which I think I probably should be, because at some point, even though they may say they're gonna remain low for 2 years, which they never did before. If you guys have been in this office for more than a couple years, when Bernanke made that statement, I just about fell out of my chair, and I'm talking 2-3 years ago. Because the Fed never came out and said, we're going to keep interest rates within this range for a period of 2 years. They never said that before. They wouldn't say what interest rates we're going to do, you know, a month later or 2 months later. We'd always sit back and wait. Oh, the Fed's going to have a meeting. What are they going to do? Remember those days? Oh, hey, the Fed's meeting on Friday. What are interest rates? Oh, the word on the street is they're going to bump it 0.25%, the discount rate. So we haven't had those conversations in a while. One thing that is kind of nice, and again, this is CRMLS data. This flies in the face of the inventory numbers, and it's the under contract numbers. The under contract numbers, as inventory is decreasing, the under contract numbers have been increasing. Okay? That doesn't make any sense. How can, as inventory goes down, how can you be putting more properties in escrow? It's completely counterintuitive. And again, this is MRMLS. Had a good October. We did basically, let's just call it 12,250 properties under contract in February. October we did better. August we did better. Summer months of last year we did better. But again, traditionally, January, February aren't great months. Well, you compare January, February to January, February last year, it's a 20% increase. You compare it to January, February 2 years ago, it's a more than 20% increase. So again, I know this is getting a little repetitive. You may be like, well, gosh, Lance, you're telling me things are getting better. I'm not necessarily feeling it. You're not feeling it because if you don't have the inventory and your buyers are getting rejected on your offers, you're not feeling it. But the numbers don't lie. We're selling properties. So irrespective of, and we talked about this before. Matter of fact, I think our investor put at least 2 or 3 properties in escrow in the last week that were on the market. They never hit the MLS. Never showed up as active. So, and I think that's a big part of what's going on, which really sucks. I mean, this could change, this market could change our industry dramatically. I mean, at some point, we've got to get back to the system that says, when I take, by the way, this is Ingrid, by the way. Ingrid, stand up and say hello. Hello, Ingrid.
Hi.
If I take Ingrid's house as a listing, I don't know that there's ever been a period of time in my 26 years of doing this where I ever would have told Ingrid, oh, by the way, I would recommend that we don't put your property in the MLS. I think we should, let me sell it this weekend, and it's in your best interest for me to sell it. Listen, again, this is a repetitive conversation, but that's the norm now. I mean, that is the norm. Agents putting stuff in Truly so they can sell it themselves. Agents not putting stuff anywhere. All right, I just, let me call my buyer. Let me call the guy in the office. So you got to be careful with these active numbers, because the active numbers are continuing to go down, 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 down. Pending numbers are not going down. Pending numbers are still solid. And again, that is a 20 to 25% increase from the first quarter of last year and the first quarter before. So I'm going to repeat what I've been saying for a couple months. This market is improving. Okay. Normally, if the newspaper says the market's in recovery, I laugh and say, I don't know what they're talking about. All of these newspapers. Does anybody get a paper anymore? You get the Sun? Okay. Well, the Sunday paper. If you go through and you take a look at it, those articles. Most of you were at our holiday party. God, it seems like a year ago, but what, a month ago. Did anybody pay attention to all those little blog posts and stuff we put up there? There was 100 articles on there. I did not cherry pick any of that. I did not cherry pick any of that. I just said, let's take a look at all the headlines that happened in the last, 60 to 75 days. And if you looked at those headlines, there was 100 relatively positive articles and headlines about the local real estate market or the national real estate market. Markets in recovery, markets, charging, property values are stabilizing, yada, yada, yada. It's happening. It is absolutely the truth. So, again, these are the numbers for, I'm not going to, unless anybody wants to see them, I'm not going to pull up the numbers for Moreno Valley, but obviously we have an inventory issue to date. So that is the most recent data. Anybody got any thoughts or comments on that, or nothing? Here we go. Yeah. It does. I mean, the listing inventory is still a super challenging. I know a few of you have been out knocking doors and pounding the pavement and looking for that inventory. To the degree, obviously, that you hit a bingo and you pick one of those listings up. I mean, it certainly is money in the bank, unless, of course, you're one of those idiots that are just, pricing stuff. Well, a real quick story, then we'll move on. Anna has a listing, is that Vile? On Vile Street, Moreno Valley. Interesting little property, large lot, kind of unique, septic, wells, and all the rest of that sort of stuff. Put it in escrow for $330-ish. What's it in escrow for $330? Which could be an argument that it was a little overpriced. Sells it for $330-ish, okay? And then gets a phone call from the agent/buyer, right? Am I telling the story right?
Yes.
From the agent/buyer that says, oh, we talked to the lender, they've talked to the appraiser, which red flag right off the bat because, shouldn't be talking to appraisers. Says, we think we have a problem. We don't think it's going to appraise for $330. They thought it was going to appraise for what, $280? $280? Which, I mean, there's a million conversations in just what I'd already said. The agent/buyer writes a house, an offer that gets accepted for $330, then comes back later to say, I don't think it's worth that. It's worth $280. Let's renegotiate. Oh, by the way, the lender talked to the appraiser, did a pre-appraisal, said it wasn't going to come in at $330. There's like 15 training classes just in that one sentence. Okay, because that's all BS. Okay, because number one, the lender can't talk to the appraiser technically. So anyway, bottom line is we'd say nonsense. Order the appraisal, do the appraisal. If it comes in at $280, we'll have that discussion. Not going to negotiate against yourself. Well, they order the appraisal. It comes back at value, $332. Okay. Now, this was a weird property, and I can understand why there might have been a concern. Anna showed me the appraisal yesterday. A couple of the comps were not close. You have to go out. One of them was almost 5 miles away. The other one was 2 miles and 3 miles. Had $75,000 value adjustments. That's not normal. Appraisers don't necessarily like to do that. There was one comp, a low comp, a $250,000 sale, I think it was, that they adjusted up to $330. So I can kind of see where the agents would have a problem with that. But as in values are charging, now there's going to be a solid comp for $330,000 for a basic house with a septic and a well, 4 acres or whatever that is. So anyway, the market is doing some interesting things. Values continue to charge. Okay, we kind of covered the news. I'll just really quickly on SkySlope. For those of you that have been still using SkySlope and are loving it, thank you. For those of you that aren't, and I don't think I have a problem with anybody that I can see in this room. First of all, if you're having challenges with SkySlope, please let me know so that we can fix them. I'm not hearing about them. So you're either not having challenges or you've just given up. Or you don't think I can fix them. So if you are having some problems, let me know. One of the problems that I know that we were guilty of on our side, on the admin side, has been fixed. So for those of you that were saying, wait a minute, I'm loading up documents and they're not getting approved and they're not basically being sent back to me as rejected or approved. Anybody have that problem in the last 60 days? Okay, well then none of you are using SkySlope because for 60 days we were really bad about that. I'd like to rephrase that. Up until about 2 weeks ago, we were really bad about that. Now, if you submit a document in SkySlope for approval, it should be reviewed and approved either the same day or certainly the next day. which I would think would be of value to you guys. You know, Steve submits something in and it sits there for 30 days and then 30 days later it gets rejected for an initial. If I was Steve, I wouldn't be happy about that. I'm like, I gave you the form 30 days ago. Why are you now telling me 30 days later that I missed an initial? So anyway, we should be getting those responses back to you the same day or within 24 hours. So generally speaking, I think everybody's doing a good job. I will tell you, and this isn't news, if you're not using SkySlope and you turn in a file without it, we're going to charge you $100. Okay? Just for processing it. So please use it. If you've got challenges with it, let me know. So, Debbie, I think, is probably the only one who's been doing we talked about the checklist. This is just from last month's slide. The only thing I really wanted to talk about on this is I think Debbie's the only one who's putting SkySlope, properties in SkySlope for offers that she's written. So if that's going to be your standard of practice, you've written 7 offers, not accepted yet, but you've written 7 offers. We've kind of come up with a system to do that. Just put in a future date, put in a 2014 close of escrow date. That will be a signal to us that says, we're probably going to change that. We'll probably put out a memo that says put in a March 31st, 2014 close of escrow date. That way when the staff sees a new transaction in SkySlope with a March 31st, 2014, we'll know that that offer is not accepted. We'll know that you just put it in there just as kind of a placeholder to get that file open. But right now, Debbie, you're doing that, and there's one agent in Claremont that does that, and one agent in Covina that's doing that. I don't think there's anybody else in here that's doing that. So, which again is okay. Not so much a big deal. We're gonna have to move quickly because my battery's about ready to die. Escrow, Summer's doing a great job. Summer, you doing a good job? She's on the phone, she's doing a great job. Property management, we're still trucking along in property management. Our inventory is still growing ever slowly. So if you guys need any help with that, keep us in mind. Let us know. We'll see what we can do. I do have, since the last meeting, I've had a couple of people continue to come up and ask me for this. This is on the website. This is our super important information that you need to know. What's our NAID number? What's our broker's license number? What's our whatever number? So if you don't have this somewhere in your computer, it is on the website. Here's another printed copy of it. You will pin it to the bathroom door or something like that. It seems like at least twice a week somebody calls me and says, what's our NAID number? Most of those people that call me have sat through these meetings 1,000 times, and I've handed it to them personally 1,000 times. But at any rate, here it is. For those of you that are wondering if I'm going to renew my broker's license, I am. Don't panic. The company broker's license expires April 25th. We've got 6 weeks or so to go. I'm assuming we'll probably have that renewal. It'll post to the website probably the first week of April. So if you're getting emails from clients or anybody that says, hey, your broker's license is going to expire, no need to call me. We're on it. We're going to, it should be renewed here in the next couple of weeks. We just lost my battery, and frankly, I was kind of done anyway. So, anybody got anything that's good for the group?
What do you think about this Warren Buffett finding out credentials?
I've got mixed feelings about it. If you didn't hear Steve's question, Warren Buffett's company has purchased, they didn't really buy Prudential, they bought, Prudential was sold, help me out if some of you may know the details on this a little clearer than I do. Prudential wants to get out of the real estate game. They kind of made that declaration a couple of years ago, okay? And they were purchased by a Canadian company that actually is the same company that purchased the GMAC brand.
Berkshire.
Well, you're ahead of me. So the Canadian company purchased the Prudential rights about 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago now. There's at least 2. And again, it's the same company that bought GMAC, which is now all the GMACs have turned into Real Living. Okay, we have a Real Living office here now in Moreno Valley, which a few of you may be familiar with. That's Danny Schweer's office, and they were prior GMAC. Now all of those offices are Real Living. Real Living, from what I've been told, has got a pretty decent marketplace back east in Georgia or Florida or something like that. I frankly had never heard of them up until 2 years ago. And when they converted all the GM, who's never heard of Real Living? Okay, at least a couple of you in this room. Okay, well, there's a Real Living office in Moreno Valley. They've been there for 2 years. All of the GMAC offices either went to Real Living or they just went to something else. They said, "I forget, I don't want to be part of Real Living. I'm going to be ABC Real Estate." So they basically have been in play for about 2 years locally. Best I can tell, they've had pretty poor acceptance from a standpoint of agents and community. So now let's fast forward to a few months back, which isn't really a few months, it's probably 7 months ago. The Warren Buffett company, the Berkshire Hathaway guys, they went in and they bought the Canadian company, which is the Real Living guys, okay? And from what I understand, Prudential, and this is kind of deja vu, Steve will probably remember this. Remember when Merrill Lynch was in the real estate business a while back, like 20 years ago? Merrill Lynch came into town, they were, you know, kind of the finance Wall Street guys, said, "Hey, we can do this real estate thing." They did it for a few years, and then they said, "We don't want to do this anymore. We're insurance and stock folks, we get out of the real estate business." So Merrill Lynch came in, bought up Great Western and a couple other offices. But at any rate, the Berkshire Hathaway guys have bought the Canadian company which owns Real Living, and which in turn is based, because the Real Living guys had the rights for Prudential. Prudential, I think, if you have an existing franchise, you can run through that existing franchise, but for the most part, it's like within the next, I think, 2 years to 3 years, Prudential is, as a brand, is gone. Okay, and whether you love it or not. I mean, Rich Cosner has got a lot of time, energy, and money invested into Prudential as a company. Doesn't matter when he goes to renew his franchise with Prudential. Well, okay, great, you can renew, but you can no longer use the Prudential brand. Prudential brand is gone. They don't want to be affiliated with Wells Fargo. So they're now, from what I understand, what's that?
Is it Sotheby's too?
No, Sotheby's actually is Coldwell Banker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Sotheby's is a Realogy brand. So this is the way I understand it. And by the way, I know all of you, if you haven't been called by the recruiter from Prudential, I hate to say it, that's a sad commentary, because you know they should be calling everybody in here twice a day, 3 times a day. Even if you've never closed a deal, I'd be shocked that they wouldn't be calling you, because you know they're in recruiting mode. But at any rate, so from what I understand, the Real Living name isn't quite doing it, and they're going to come out with a name called Berkshire something Real Estate Holdings. So.
Berkshire Hathaway?
I don't think they're going to use the Berkshire Hathaway name. I think it's Berkshire
Actually, they already have the signs out.
something. Oh, they do?
Yeah, it is Berkshire.
For which company?
That's Prudential's new.
They just met in Vegas or whatever this last week?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
the
Well, these are the companies that are out. So this is in LA.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess they are. Okay. Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. So all of the Prudentials within the next few years will be Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Very similar to what Coldwell Banker has done. And Stephen mentioned Sotheby's. Sotheby's kind of got more of like an auction feel to it. But you know, Realogy owns Coldwell Banker, Century 21, ERA, Sotheby's. There's one other I'm forgetting for some reason. So, at any rate, they'll be renamed. So, if you're a Prudential agent today, at some point in the next year or 2, maybe sooner, maybe longer, you will no longer be a Prudential agent. You will be a Berkshire Hathaway Home Services agent.
I wonder what they put on the side of the building.
Well, I think I would think that they're going to stick with the Prudential, at least for the short term, if for no other reason. All of the marketing pieces that you guys get, I'm getting too, because they think I'm an agent as far as their system is concerned. It all says Prudential. I haven't seen anything from the Moreno Valley office that says, or even the Riverside office, nor have I heard any kind of buzz or scuttlebutt that the name's going to be changed in a short window. I think they've got like 2 years left on that. But I gotta tell you, if I'm Rich Cosner,
Just let it know.
yeah, and again, some of you guys may have had lunch with him personally, I'd be shocked if you haven't, but from what I understood with the purchase, with the Berkshire purchase, he wasn't happy about that. And I gotta tell you, I wouldn't be happy about it, because, I mean, I just look at from Coldwell Banker. Let's just assume for a minute that I like the Coldwell Banker brand, okay? I've got 10 years invested into the Coldwell Banker brand. Now, I've got some challenges with the corporate guys and some things I don't like. But generally speaking, I love the Coldwell Banker brand. I've got a lot of time, energy, and money invested in the Coldwell Banker brand. If they came to me tomorrow and said, oh, by the way, at the end of next year, you're going to be the ABC company, I would not like that. I just, I wouldn't, what are you talking about? That's, we've got a lot of time, energy, and money invested into this. Even if the ABC brand is a great name. Berkshire Hathaway, I don't know, I mean, I know that name because, I follow the financials a lot. I don't know that the average,
The consumer's gonna think it's ABC Realty Group.
I don't know. Now again, if they do huge amounts of marketing and just, which was going back to the real living thing. Who knows Danny Schweer? Danny Schweer, if his office hasn't called you to recruit you at some point in time, I don't know why they wouldn't, but Danny Schweer's been in town for a little bit, not longer than I, but about the same, 20 plus years. Danny Schweer owned, help me out,
Park Place,
Park Place, Better Homes and Gardens, from Better Homes, what happened to Better Homes and Gardens?
GMAC.
Better Homes and Gardens said, we're not going to be Better Homes and Gardens anymore, forced Danny to become a GMAC. Now again, they pay you a little bit of money to do that, but at the end of the day, now I got to be GMAC. So he wasn't happy about it. He goes to GMAC. GMAC lasted for 6 years, 7 years, okay? Then 2 years ago said, oh, guess what? You're not going to be GMAC anymore. You're going to be Real Living. I got to tell you, I wouldn't have put up with that crap. I would have said, no, I'm not. Unless, I said, okay, you guarantee me that you're going to bring a company, you're going to force me to become Berkshire Hathaway, or you're going to force me to become Real Living. And I want you to guarantee me that you're going to spend $1 billion on marketing that name in my community. If you're going to do that, then I'll go ahead and I'll hook my wagon to your cart and I'll move forward. Let's use the Real Living for example. There's 3 people in this room that never heard of Real Living. They've been in this town for 2 years. Okay? Who in this room did not realize that GMAC is no longer a franchise? Is there anybody in here that... Well, I bet if we were to poll a variety of the public and say, hey, is there a GMAC real estate office in your community? I bet a certain percentage of the public would say yes. They don't even know that they don't even exist anymore. So, and then it'll be interesting. I mean, if Berkshire Hathaway comes out and does a huge amount of advertising and says this is who we are,
They have to.
well, but they didn't do it with Real Living.
Yeah, but like I said, it's an East Coast company. I thought Real Living Premier was just something here. I thought it was like
The local company.
yeah.
Right. Well, I would agree with Stephen's statement. Having said that, who knows? I would think that they would have to. So if there's ever going to be that sort of switch, not ever, when that switch happens, you would think, and I don't mean locally getting postcards from Cosner saying, hey, we're going to go from Prudential to Berkshire Hathaway tomorrow. I would mean massive stuff from the top down, saying, hey, this is who we are. National advertising campaign stuff.
I've heard each office is getting a pretty fat allowance to help make that transition with
What?
signs and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's normal anyway. I mean, if we decided tomorrow that we wanted to become Century 21, Century 21 would probably pay me, keep in mind Century 21 is owned by the same company that owns Coldwell Banker, but they compete against each other. They would probably pay me $250,000. A lot of money, right? Well, what the thought would be is, it costs a lot to change the carpet from blue to gold and the sign. I mean, it costs a lot to do that stuff, and then do some advertising, do some marketing, and all the rest of it. And in 5 offices, I could easily spend $250,000 changing signs, and then everyone. And Ingrid's not an agent, by the way, but Ingrid just ordered a whole bunch of signs. I just recruited you. You got a whole bunch of signs. You got business cards. I mean, we could spend, just to do the math real quick. We've got almost 200 agents in the office. Okay, let's do the math real quick. if I had to spend, which we could easily spend $1,000 per agent on business cards, for sale signs, you've got customized open house signs, you've got a website that's all branded. Now you come to me as an agent and say, well shit, thanks for changing the name. Who's gonna spend all this money on, you know, rebranding Steve and Maya? You know, right? So you come to me, so well, geez, I just got a pile of $250,000. Well, I just gave $200,000 of it to my agents to buy signs and business cards. I mean, so when you hear that there's been a pile of money thrown around, piles are all relative. So, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting year. And I think this is the first time we've actually had this conversation as it relates to Prudential coming back. Believe it or not, guys, I don't know who the first person was to tell. I knew Prudential was coming back to town about 6 months ago, okay? I think Diane had sent me an email, and a couple of you might have sent me an email or given me something. And my reply back was, I think it's a good thing. It's a sign of confidence in the marketplace. You know, the fact that there's really only 2 major companies in this entire city, us and Remax. This city, with inventory of 105 units, nobody's going to make any money. I mean, if you just look at the units available on the market alone, frankly, there should only be 1 real estate office in the entire city. I mean, everybody should close, and there should only be 1 of us. Okay? Actually, we can't even support 1 decent office with 105 units, and we should have there should be 1 office with about 30 agents working in it in the entire city of Reno Valley. Putting that aside, you got to go back. For some of you guys who have been around here for a while, and these were strong offices. These were offices with market share. We had
Century 21
we had 2 Century 21 offices in Moreno Valley, both of them with decent market share. We had a Better Homes and Gardens, Danny's office. We had the Remax office. We had a Tarbell office. Pardon me?
You had Harding.
We had Harding, which was an independent, but did significant business, probably in the top 5 market share monthly for years. We had Tarbell. I think I already said Prudential.
Did you say Remax?
We had Remax. Hey,
there was a bunch of little independents.
And a bunch of little independents. We had Pioneer, which did business. I mean, there were 10
Golden State
offices, Golden State, Moreno Valley Realty to a degree.
Yes.
Realty Executive.
Realty Executive.
Yeah.
Realty Executive.
That.
Realty Executive. Just block that out. Anyway, there were at least 7, if not 10, substantial offices in this city making a living. 2 C21s.
Yeah.
You know, we can argue whether C21 Sunnymead ever did anything worth a damn, but you know, I mean, hey,
Then there was Mike.
Right. So, you know, with Prudential coming, by the way, Tarbell's coming back. Hey, now, whoa, Lance and Carl, I don't know when. I'm just telling you, they're coming back.
Tarbell?
Yes. It's going to be, now again, is there an announcement out? No, I don't know anything about an announcement coming out. But will they be back? I guarantee you, as these numbers start to change, as the market starts to improve, as values start to increase, as unit sales start to increase, Tarbell will be back in town. And that's, again, believe it or not, coming from me, you would think I would want to be the only office in town. It doesn't work that way, guys. Tarbell coming back into town is a good thing for the marketplace. It shows confidence in the marketplace, and just from a sheer volume standpoint. So, at any rate, I got to tell you, I'm so bullish and so excited about this real estate market. As broken as it is, I mean, it's still a disaster. It's broken, and it's just, you know, screwed beyond all recognition. But I got to tell you, everything is in play for this to be a fantastic year. Yes,
I have a question
right,
for you and the other
agents.
agents. What's going on in Riverside? What's happening there? I know at least 10 mortgage companies looking to open an office in Riverside. They're recruiting like mad. They're recruiting managers like mad, and I don't know why. Why Riverside? What's happened?
Well, I'll give you my 2 cents worth of that. I believe, for the same reason, not that I want to keep belaboring Prudential, that I can only imagine that, you know, before noon today, everyone's going to be talking about, not everybody, but there'll be a leak in this office that was, oh my God, I just took 20 minutes of the sales meeting talking about Prudential today. I think for the same reason Prudential feels the market's improving and they want to come and reestablish themselves in a market in Moreno Valley, I think the mortgage side sees the same thing. But there's two things that we've had problems with over the last several years. Prices and unit sales, okay? We've said this ad nauseum. This town alone, and this isn't answering Riverside, but I think it works for Riverside, because the same numbers work for Riverside. This town alone, for 25 years, could support between 300 and 400 sales a month, every month, forever, okay? We've been selling half of that, houses per month. As the community has grown, we haven't gotten smaller. We still have the same number of people. We have more people, actually. We have the same number of houses. No, we have more, actually. So when you take a look at, I think we've been stuck. Well, again, for most of you, you've heard this so many times. When I say you should double your business this year, or you should double or triple the number of unit sales this year, most people think, oh, that's just the beginning of the year, New Year's resolution type thing, and Lance is telling me to double my sales. I'm telling you to double your sales is because this town can support twice as many sales. Actually, this town can support 3 times as many sales as they have right now. But we have been in this stuck marketplace. Property values low, REO market broken, short sale market broken, standard sales, sellers locked off the market because values are too low. As values start to increase, which again, 2 problems, low values, low unit sales. As values start to increase, the unit sales should track behind them. That's what I think when you look at the mortgage guys. I think they're making a, guys, there's a hedge funds buying real estate in the Inland Empire, in case you haven't noticed, okay? There is a tremendous amount of people that are banking on the Inland Empire improving. You know, values going up, unit sales going up. There's a lot of money that people believe that that's going to happen. So when I hear that real estate offices are opening back up in town, mortgage companies want to open up back in town, God only knows, there'll be more title reps, you know, back in the office. That to me is just an indication that our market is changing, it is improving. Now why they're picking the location of Riverside as opposed to Moreno Valley, maybe we need to talk to our Moreno Valley mayor about that. You know, for those of you that were here last Thursday. You know, but I can guarantee you those offices that are opening in the city of Riverside plan on doing business in this town, in San Bernardino, in Paris, and all over the place. They just prefer Riverside address as opposed to maybe a Moreno Valley address or a Paris address or a San Bernardino address. So again, I think that's bullish. I just think it's bullish on the marketplace. And again, you guys know we're working with this hedge fund buyer.
Huge push.
This freaking hedge fund buyer cannot get
For
enough.
recruiting for what?
They still want to buy.
500,000 people.
You know, they're buying. It's crazy. So anyway, we've got a hell of a year in front of us. Hell of a year. So again, market's broken though. It's broken beyond all recognition.
It's tough to double your business when it's so broken like that.
Well, it is, but again, you got to remember, and I'm not being positive for the sake of being positive, we're in the middle of March. Traditionally, and again, my battery's dead, go back for the last couple years, take a look at unit sales in January, February, March. Traditionally, that is not a great period of time to see significant unit sales. You go back and take, even last summer, you take, now again, we've got to have the inventory. I've been saying for a long time, and I was going to try not to say it today, but what the hell, here I am. As values continue to increase, at some point, those 3 words, at some point, the number of listings in the inventory has to follow, okay? Somebody's got to be tracking that. Somebody that lives near the listing that Anna just sold is going to find out that that house just sold for $330,000, and they are going to have an epiphany. Say, oh my God! I was going to say something else. And they're going to say, John and Sally just sold for $330,000. Can you believe that? And they're going to sit down. They're going to talk with their wife or their husband or whoever it may be, and they're going to say, now's the time. And the next one's going to sell for $350,000, probably within 30 days. okay? I just look at Sunnymead Ranch. Are we ever gonna close Fenton?
No,
No, not your Fenton.
That was a
Nana's
joke.
Fenton? Well, at any rate, we're selling a house that needs to be, burned down and built over, if for no other reason it smells like so much cigarette smoke. I don't know if they're ever gonna get the cigarette smoke
it'll
from
do
all
it
this house.
himself.
But we're gonna sell that house for $2.25 or $2.30 or whatever the heck it's gonna sell for.
230 will come with the
Well, okay, we're gonna close it for $2.30.
21,500.
Yeah, it's gonna be cash, we don't care what the appraisal is gonna close. Chris bought a house up in Sunnymead Ranch, not that long ago for $155, $160. You can't touch that house today right now for $175, $180, $190. Can't touch it. That's 90 days ago, right? 120 days ago. 155, probably can't touch it for 195. Crazy. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll sell it and go rent for another year. So you're gonna go sell it for $350 and they plan on renting for a year because you're not gonna get it.
There you go. But as that happens, as those sales start to happen, take a look at someone that has lived in Chris's neighborhood now for, let's say they've been there for 10 years or 15 years. And the values were down. And then they saw Chris's house close escrow for $155? 150. And which again, was a good comp compared to where it was before. We talked about it. We kind of looked at each other, oh, gee, really? You really want to go to 150? That seems like a lot.
And he was gonna pay 175.
I hear you. So he closed it for 150, but now I'm the neighbor 6 doors down with the same house. And I'm talking to my wife. Oh, wow, did you see that house? They closed it for 150. Now, 4 months later, God, this reminds me of like 2000. Like I said, we're 2003, 4, 5, all over again. Now you got the neighbor across the street who had that conversation 4 months ago is now looking at another house, which is just like yours, that's going to close for 190, 195. And they're going to, at some point, they're going to say, let's get the hell out of here. I'm done. And the inventory is going to rise. Yes?
I just want to say, the lender, he asked what's going on Riverside, and when I evaluate what's going on there, Riverside home prices are really way up. You're seeing $500,000 homes, and that's for again, $400, $500.
Go get my battery charger.
I think it has to do with the schools
There's
though.
also tons of active inventory there, and the prices have really gone up in Riverside a lot, and like you said, that 2002, 2003.
Yep.
That's what I'm seeing again.
It's all over again.
Because if you look at their standard sales, and then about if you look at their standard sales, you go into the taxes and you look individually, what you'll see is a lot of those are flips. They're
Yep.
really investor properties, but in Riverside, a lot of those are people who purchased in 2007 to 2010, 11, 12, and they already have $100,000 equity.
Right.
So they're getting out, they're grabbing their money and they're going.
Right.
You see it over and over.
Well, and let's face it, you take a look at, forget about Chris. Chris has realized a 20% increase in his possible sales price in 4 months, which again, just, gosh, if that doesn't sound like 2002 and 3 and 4, I don't know what does. But what about those people that we sold houses to, what about the people that we sold houses to a year or two ago? Okay? Now they've seen the market shift a little bit. Maybe they're a little excited about what property values are doing. And they've saved their money, they've talked to their lender, they've got their pre-qual, they've got a job, I mean, not everybody, I mean, my God, things are improving. Unemployment rate, did anybody know that the national unemployment rate went down again? Now, I don't want to get political. We can poo-poo the Republicans or the Democrats or whether or not the country is financially in a disaster. But there is a lot of good stuff going on out there from a standpoint of unemployment and job creation that wasn't even there. What's going on here? Does this plug not work? Oh, there we go. That's not going to work. Excuse me, sugar. There we go. So anyway, there's a lot of good signs up there. I'm just really quick. If you guys have to go, I promised I was going to be done by 10, but it'll take 2 minutes. I want to pull up the Riverside numbers. Because I think you're generally right, but the Riverside numbers do not look that much different than the Moreno Valley numbers as far as appreciation. The numbers might be bigger. I mean, we always, agents all the time. At least this time of the year, everybody comes up to me and says, "Oh, I think I'm going to go work in Riverside." Why are you going to go to work in Riverside? Oh, because hell, I can sell a house over in Orange Crest or the Wood Streets for 50% more and work, you know, half as hard, or whatever it happens to be. Well, yeah, there's truth to that, but again, we've seen a 22% appreciation here. I don't think the inventory levels are quite as high as you might think. There are more houses to sell, but Riverside's, you know, twice as big. Anybody got the MLS open right now? Somebody pull
Last
up.
time I ran active in Riverside was like 350.
Yeah, someone do that while I'm waiting for my computer to pull up. But I'm sure it's going to be less than 400. And again, to put that in perspective, why I'm tap dancing why we get this to come back up. 400 active listings in Riverside compared to 5 years ago. Anybody want to take a stab? How many active listings you had in the city of Riverside 5 years ago?
Like 3,000.
It's about 3,000. 3,000 properties for sale in the city of Riverside about 5 years ago, compared to Moreno Valley was between 1,800 and 2,000. So that's. But again, God bless you. Go to Riverside. Go to Temecula. Go to.
What I noticed is that, a few months ago, with so many short sales there, now you see a lot of standards, and
Yep.
I think that's one of the reasons that agents are looking at is saying, wow, standard sales. Because the short sales are getting kind of stupid again because of the fact that as we go up, the banks want more, we lose the buyer, you know, the same thing we want to do with Fenton's, the prices are going up.
Right.
The bank wants more.
353 in
I'm hearing
Riverside.
that over and over again, that people are
Right.
falling out because the bank wants more for the property.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's getting. I mean, I'll use your word. It's getting stupid. I mean, there's a lot of.
It's just good to see that we have standard sales there now that we didn't have.
Well, but look at your. So let's use Chris's example for a minute. Let's just suppose that the house that he bought up in Sunapee Ranch for 150 was a short sale, and he put that under contract 4 or 5 months ago. How cool would it be to finally get an approval today, at 150, knowing that you could literally turn around and sell that house tomorrow for a $40,000 profit? Okay. Now, again, if that's not an indication of a broken real estate market, I don't know what is, because that should not happen. Now, I don't know what part's broken. I don't know whether 150 was too cheap or 195 was too much. Okay? I don't know. All I know is that we just bought another house that was twice as big as Chris's with the pool around the block for $200,000 2 months ago. Okay? Well, that makes that house worth $260. I mean, if Chris's house, which is a smaller, I apologize if I'm using you too much of an example here, but Chris lives in the smallest house in Sunapee Ranch. Which, by the way, if you're going to buy a house, always buy the smallest house in the neighborhood. Appreciation-wise, you do better. Never go buy the 3,000 square foot house in the neighborhood. You always want to buy the smallest house in the neighborhood because it's just. My computer is failing me. Let me try this one more time.
I got a property tied up in Sunny Ranch at 206 back in August, and there's been a lis pendants on the property, so it's been tied up in court for the longest time.
Right.
Final court date is the 1st of next month.
Right.
And they're gonna get it up to 206.
Right. Well, let's do this. My computer's not working, and we need to stop this. But let's just. I'm going to give you something to think about, and we'll close with Chris's property and Leander's property. Chris, how many square feet? 1,200 square feet?
1,100.
1,100 square feet, Sunnymead Ranch, that we all would agree today, you could not buy that house for less than $190 today. There would be a cash buyer that would pay you $190 for it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a house that Leander has listed, which is walking distance to Chris's. So literally, basically, it's Sunnymead Ranch, same neighborhood, less than a half a mile away. 2,100 square feet?
22.
Okay, it's twice as big with a pool and a spa. Now, granted, it needs some work, but it's not. When I say it has to be torn down, it does not have to be torn down. It just needs to be de-smoked, carpeted, and painted. Okay, all right. We're going to close escrow on that hopefully at 230.
500.
At 220.
But I mean, just to kind of go to your point, we could have put that house in escrow 90 days ago for $190,000.
There you go.
Yeah, the short sale approved that, right? 190.
Okay, so but the point that I'm making, what is Leander's house really worth? Okay? If we're selling an 1,100 square foot house in Moreno Valley, or excuse me, Centerview Ranch for 190, now again, you can't double it because it's twice as big, you know, it doesn't work that way. But that house, Leander's house, is sure as hell worth more than 220. You know, that's probably a $300,000 house. Okay?
According to who?
According to me.
Well, knowing the Moreno Valley history, that it's definitely gonna be worth 300,000
Right.
very soon.
Probably this summer.
Very soon, yeah.
Probably by this summer.
But not right now.
Well, no, correct, not right now. No one's gonna pay $300,000 for that, but again, who would have thought 4 months ago, if Chris had said, hey, I wanna come buy this house for 190 4 months ago, I would have said, dude, what are you doing? Lost your mind, okay? Things are moving that rapidly. I mean, that's what we laugh at, a 7% increase nationally from NAR. We've seen that in a month,
Well,
right?
what's a healthy increase then?
Dude, I don't know. The market's so screwed up, I don't know if there is such thing as a healthy increase. Traditionally, if you were to see more than a 5 to 7% increase in values in a year, that would not be, anything above that would not be healthy. You look at what we did in 2002, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Property values tripled. Tripled. Okay? In 4 years. I mean, healthy. And then we got to 2006 and 7, and here we are.
You said you were looking for a move up earlier.
Me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What changed now between 6 months ago when you were still holding off and it was artificial?
Well, because the house, well, this is the deal. It would have to be, I'm not gonna be your typical buyer though. I'm not gonna go pay retail. I think, and turn the tape off. Real estate market's broken, guys. It is, it's broken. So I'm looking for a deal to buy some, which is gonna be tough. But again, I'm not buying in this market. I'm looking at a market that would be north of $700,000. That's a different marketplace. I am. So, but, you know, just take a look, for example, who's familiar with the Canyon Crest area river? I live in Canyon Crest. Okay, I live in Chris's house. I live in the smallest, very modest house in Canyon Crest. Okay, I don't think there's a smaller house, unless you're in a condo, in the Canyon Crest area. Okay. The house I want to buy is not for sale, and it hasn't been for sale for 5 years. The neighbor I want to buy into has had 3 transactions in probably 4 or 5 years. They're just not selling. There's nothing. And the reason it's not selling is because those people are locked into a price that should be somewhere between $700,000 and $900,000, and you couldn't sell that house for $700,000 or $900,000. That's what it used to sell for. That's the crazy part. You look at that. Your house, to my knowledge, I don't think ever sold for more than $260,000. The house that you're in right now. At peak, it was probably a $260,000 house. Okay. So in theory, well, look at that.
No, it's gotta be more than that. We sold Gentian for $305. And that was
Oh, you're right. I
980 square
apologize.
feet.
No, I'm sorry. I misspoke. $360,000. Okay. $360,000. Again, property value has tripled. Okay. I said $260,000. I meant $360,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Property values tripled. That house was that house probably sold for about $100,000. In 2002, it was probably, you could have bought that house for probably $140,000. Okay, $125,000, $140,000. Triple. It was up to $350,000. Okay, do we go back to that?
75%.
I don't know. The people that I'm talking to seem to think, let's do the math on Chris's real quick. It's going to go to 75% of peak. What's 75% of 350? Who's the calculator here? $350,000 times 0.75, $262,000. So when your house gets to 262, sell. Make a cool 100, and it'll probably be there by Christmas. Guys, I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. But if that formula, by the way, and it's not a secret, if you haven't heard that, the hedge fund buyers, what they're putting their money that the property values in the Inland Empire will return to at least 75% of peak. So you take a look at what your house is, and you go back to June of 2006, and you say, what did that house sell for in June of 2006? And probably 350 is probably conservative for the house we're talking about. Smallest house in Sunnymead Ranch. That's probably a conservative, and you can do this on Zillow. Be careful, don't always trust Zillow. I think Chris is jumping on Zillow right now. But let's just suppose 350 is a fair value for the peak. The hedge fund buyers, their formula is very simple. Values will return to 75% of the number, which is $365,000, or excuse me, $265,000. And they feel that's going to happen within 3 to 5 years. And we're already, let's just say, a year into it. So within the next 2 to 4 years, the Wall Street money says that property values, Chris's house will be worth $265,000. Now, if you bought in 2006, you're not happy about that, but if you bought today, or if you bought 4 months ago, that ain't bad. Now again, is that healthy? Is that better? That's not healthy. That's not doubling property values in Sunnymead Ranch, but it's damn close. That's a pretty significant increase in property values. So, and the other crazy part about this, and we're really going long, is who's controlling a significant part of the inventory right now? It's investors.
You are.
The investors are buying the stuff they're not selling. They're controlling that. If there's anybody that can control inventory, right now, who's in theory controlling inventory levels over the last couple of years? Fannie and Freddie and the banks, right? They had complete control. We're going to restrict levels because they felt it was in their best interest to keep the supply low to try to reestablish the market. Well, guess what they've done? It took them 6 years, but they've kept supply low, and now they're reestablishing the market. Who's going to be replacing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in controlling the market? It's going to be the Wall Street guys, because they're now buying these properties. They have the ability to restrict the supply that comes to market. And they're going to restrict it for what reason? They want, to their benefit, they want property values to go up, right? So they're going to replace, and they are replacing Fannie and Freddie as the restrictors, if you will, in the marketplace. This is why
This is screwed up for a long time. Then
this is the part of the market, if you wanted my real feeling about why am I not as bullish and going out and buying as the hedge fund guys? Because I want a real market. I want a market that's traditional. When Fannie and Freddie are controlling inventory, to me that's artificial. I don't want to buy into it. It's too much of it's gambling. And now you've got Wall Street guys coming in, buying up inventory and controlling market. Well, that's the definition of Wall Street. I mean, you know, you buy a stock today, you know, who knows what the hell's going to happen. If those guys, if their plan changes in 3 years and they liquidate, they're going to take their money and they're going to run out, give a crap what happens to the market after that. Okay, so in theory, who went and saw Bruce Norris at Ivar last week? Okay, I don't know if he said this in that group, but he said it to me about 3 weeks ago. Bruce sees a run-up in property values, and I agree with him, through 2015, and then he sees a drop. Okay? Now, I don't know if he said exactly what the number is, but he sees a drop in sometime in 2015, and he sees that because that's when the hedge fund guys are going to exit the marketplace.
I dropped back down to where it was 6 months ago.
Who knows? So if you're, it almost feels like we're looking at a Wall Street chart, right? So you look at the chart, and I know nothing about reading those charts, but you look at the chart, and at some point, the analysts say, when the stock hits here, you sell, sell, sell.
Well, we'll get a lot of inventory in 2015.
And then, right, and then again, in theory, guys, I don't care whether property value, I've said this for years, I don't care whether property values are up, I don't care if property values are down. I just want to, we sell stuff, guys, that's how we make a living. Now, we make a little bit more if we sell higher priced product, but at the end of the day, we just need product to sell. So as long as we can sell it, guys, I made a boatload of money as a real regular agent in the mid-90s selling $150,000 houses in Moreno Valley. I just sold a bunch of them. Okay, so 50 to 60 houses a year as an agent, not REO stuff, just farming my territory. I sold 50 to 60 houses. Granted, some of those were REOs. I'm with you, but a year selling $50,000 condos and the $200,000 sale was a blessing.
Big deal.
God. You know, right? Janet,
Yeah.
she knows it, she was there. We had a lot of money. We had a lot of units to sell. That's our problem right now, unit sales. Prices are taking care of themselves apparently. Anyway, we're way long.